forward to you go all day.
Wow.
So yeah, it's working now. No swearies. And
Right.
so I'll go to YouTube and my channel.
Man, this is so weird.
Home. Now
See, now we're live, and I want to go and get another cup of tea.
Yeah, you can do that.
Can I? You know what? I'm going to go get the pot and bring it in. No, that's a pot of tea.
Yeah.
So I'll be back in a second.
Different kind
Just
of show.
entertain yourself.
Do. Entertaining myself and looking for the link. And there it is now.
I don't want tea yet.
And
Thank you, so.
copy. There and
Just talking to William out there.
Oh yeah.
He's about to walk the dog. Hang on. It's so funny. So this is our day. This is the first time I've been live, and I'm so unorganized. But that's all right.
So on your screen in front of you, you should see there's a chat bar on the right hand side.
No, I don't.
Okay, group chat. How do I make that come up on your screen? There's got to be a.
Top left. There's. Now I see it. Okay, I see it now.
All right, so I'm going to put in a. Hopefully, if this. Yeah, to enter. That's the code that will bring people here. So I'll stick it on my page if you want to stick it on your page.
Yep. Okay, let's do that. I'm just going to pour more tea. Do you ever use your coffee plunger to make tea?
No.
I'm telling you, it's a good thing.
Doesn't it just? Have you got like tea?
Dude, once you go to loose tea, you'll never go back to tea bags. I'm telling you now. Makes all the difference in the world.
Share. So this will be an interesting experiment. There's a chat. Ooh, someone's on here already. Hi, Coach Mark, 2002.
Coach Mark.
Yeah. We are talking about, because it's Halloween, we're talking about some scary stuff that pops up in the New Testament and maybe some other things that...
Can I say...
Yeah.
That, hang on. So hang on. Before we start talking about anything, so I'm taking this link, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and throwing it up on your Facebook, and then people can click that and it should take them straight to...
I want to throw up on Facebook.
Live. This is quite exciting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got it. I'll copy that. See, people, this is why... hang on. Is it working?
It should work if you click through. I mean, I've got 5 people watching now.
G'day, people. G'day, everyone watching me and my tech.
Struggling.
No, I've got it. Okay, wait. There's a picture of you. Oh, yeah. That's great. Okay. Jono and whoops. Jason live. Now it's so exciting.
It is exciting.
Get into it, people. What else are you going to do on Halloween? Okay. So, right. Okay. Because I'll tell you why. I haven't done live until now because it absolutely freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
I hate doing live, and you'll probably find out why. And I'll probably kick myself for the rest of my life. But all the stupid things that I say that I edit out to make myself sound smart, can't do that now because it's live. So you'll just get the unwatered down Jono.
Yeah. I have to say,
are you concerned?
A good 25-minute program is generally the result of a good 1.5 hour edit. Ben
it really is.
Ben Collins says someone has a cat. Yeah, I do have a cat. She normally sleeps in the room that we're in at the moment, and she's in the hall. She's only like 10 weeks old. She is not happy about being away from her sofa because it's
maybe near the end you can bring her in. Hey, so listen, let me ask you something. How can I see chatty people?
You go to the YouTube page that it's on my.
I've actually got to go to it.
There's a chat box, and you can just watch them, and people will pop up messages as they are.
Ooh. Wait. Now I'm getting double thing. So I got to mute it.
Yeah, or pause it. You don't need to kind of watch that at all. You can just
I
stick
can just
to
pause it.
Yeah. Technology. Look at that.
I know. Look at that. All right. So now I go down here, and where do I see the chatty bits?
So underneath on the left, it's going to have the title of the show, and on the right, it'll say it should have a little chat box.
Oh yeah,
with top chat, which is a lot
there
like
it is.
Top Cat.
There's Coach Mark and Ben Connell.
Yeah, so that's
G'day,
great.
Ben.
Technology. So yeah, I put up that it's going to be on at 12 GMT. I don't know how many people will turn up. I think that's like 6 o'clock in Dallas. So some people it's kind of it's late afternoon or early evening, but we'll see. We'll go ahead and do the show as we wanted, and we'll still end up with a physical copy at the end. And if people do turn up and they want to ask questions, they can do that too.
Okay, so someone, people who are watching, just type something so I can see this. And I need a new comment just to make sure that things are working here. Have you got a new comment?
I have not, but
come on, people, don't leave me hanging.
There's a thing called slow-mo is on too. So if someone comments, they can't comment for another 30 seconds.
There it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Awesome.
Good one. It's working. 7 a.m. 7. No, 7 in the evening, right?
Yeah, 7 in the evening. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. In Dallas. Okay. So, yeah. So it does freak me out. And someone said to me recently, hang on, let me go back here so I can look at you. Someone said to me recently that I should try new things. Do some different things and start with the thing that scares you the most.
Ooh, okay.
And this would be the thing that scares me the most, is being live on the internet. But the audio is sounding very good. Thanks, Coach Mark. Cool. All right, so we're good. So and what more appropriate time to do that, to do scary things, Jason, than to do it on Halloween?
On the eve of Samhain. Yeah.
On the eve of Samhain. Now wait a minute. So it's the 31st here, and it's only just clicked over for you. It's midnight. And it's now the 31st.
Yeah, and I have to say, Ireland has embraced. I mean, Halloween basically is born of Ireland. It's Ireland's invention.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, go on. Give us the quick rundown.
Well, only in the last couple of years has Ireland really embraced it. And this year, there's so many tricked out houses, and they've got everything's on the lawn, and they've got the skeletons and everything else outside. Very like it's more than ever. So yeah, Samhain, which turned into Halloween, which means Hallows Eve, because on the 1st of November it's All Hallows Day. So on Halloween, the dead are supposed to walk the earth. Well, the spirits of the dead. And so what used to happen is on the 31st of October, poor people would go around from door to door offering to pray for the dead of certain richer families. They'd
for a quid. So they'd offer prayers for a quid.
Well, they'd offer prayers for a thing called a soul cake. So there were these really cheap cakes that were given to people. And if you received the cake, you would pray. That's kind of where we get the trick or treat thing from. But a tradition was born of dressing up as people who were not of your family. It's like someone else. So if you were to roam the streets and one of your ancestors saw you and you weren't praying for them, they wouldn't recognize you for who you are. It's kind of a mixed background, but yeah, that's Samhain, and that's straight out of Ireland's history.
Okay. Because I remember being in I was in Hungary, I think, some little town in Hungary, and it happened to be All Saints Day, and everyone was making their way to the cemeteries with candles and flowers, and it was really is that the same? Is that around the same date? I think that's around now, isn't it?
Yeah. So in
is that a case of Catholic appropriation? Like they've taken Samhain and gone, hey, we can do that better.
Well, Samhain itself is a old pagan festival which really didn't have much to do with Christianity at all, and that's the same for almost all Christian festivals. But then you get these interesting things like Cinco de Mayo in Mexico, or the one you're talking about. That and there are grave days in Ireland where you'll go to the graveside and you'll just tidy it up. And there are some places where you'll go and you'll just share stories and a picnic next to the kind of the memory of your departed one. I don't know if that's particularly unhealthy. You're not talking to them. You're just going there and saying, like,
Remembering.
next week we're going to celebrate them. Yeah, and I think that's kind of an okay thing to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mix. But really, what I remember from going to church, especially a Baptist church, is you'd roll up at like 8 o'clock on Halloween, and you'd have like a 2 or 3 hour service where you'd pray to make sure that the evil spirits didn't come. And then as soon as it got to midnight, for some reason, then you were safe. You know, it's All Saints Day.
Really?
Yeah, it's this crazy idea that
so superstitious.
a calendar can make such a big difference.
Kind of what? G'day to so Coach Mark says he's in South Carolina. Bluesman, the Bluesman, Shalom, Bluesman, and is that Cecia? How would I pronounce that? Cecia Fernandez.
Cecia Fernandez. That's a great.
Hello from Mexico. G'day from Mexico. Hi, wow, Mexico. That's great. The Bluesman. Oh, do you know what? We don't have any music at the beginning of the.
You can. Yeah, you must have a guitar hanging around there.
I've got 4 just in the corner there, but they're all in their cases, and I can't be bothered. But I tell you what. Hang on, there's one out. Hang on a second. I'll be back in a sec. Just talk amongst yourself.
Okay. Jono has 4 guitars because he likes to play 2 with his hands and 2 with his feet. If Jono was an octopus, he'd have 8 guitars. It's got a healthy-looking hat rack there too, which is nice to see.
This is my wife's guitar. It's a tiny little guitar because she's only this big, and she needs
2 feet tall.
Yeah, she needs a smaller one. It's just out there. Hang on. Okay.
Very nice.
That's our little introduction to the Jono and Jason show.
That's perfect.
It's not very Halloweeny, but it'll do.
Yeah, say boo at the end. It'll be fine. It's perfect.
There's a couple of genres. You can choose whichever one you like the best, and that can be our theme. Right. So we're on right now. So the other day, because it is Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, you and I did a program. 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago or 3?
I think 3 years ago now. Yeah.
You are half the man today that you were then.
Yeah, I've lost a bit of weight.
You've lost a lot of weight, but you can go to that if you haven't watched it already. What did we call it? It was the 10 scariest. Yeah. Top 10. It was a top 10. It was a top 10. Now we got a comment. I shared that again because obviously you share these programs again before the date, the relevant date. And a whole bunch of people have watched this program again. And honestly, it was a really funny program. Our friend Carmen Welker, g'day Carmen, of the refinersfire.org. You can go there and check out her website. She is, we're not really entirely in agreement, are we, theologically?
No.
If I were to call her a Christian, she would be offended, I think.
Yes.
And she would say, no, I'm a Nazarene, I think. And which is odd because she's not from Nazareth. No. Isn't that kind of appropriation?
Yeah, but then neither was Jesus, so it's okay.
No, he was a Bethlehemite.
Yeah.
Can I say? But a Nazarene. It's weird, isn't it? It's kind of. I mean, I'm not having a go at Carmen, but I guess it's like, when people say they're lesbians, but they're not actually from the island of Lesbos. And there are people on the island of Lesbos going, we're lesbians. Can you stop cultural appropriation? That's Can you just not?
Yeah.
Unless you actually have a genealogy that goes back to the island of Lesbos.
I didn't know this would be going this way this quickly.
Do you see, people? Do you see why I don't go live? This is the reason why.
Also, Carmen isn't a lesbian. I just think, just in case anyone's pushed, that's not why we went there. But she's going the whole Nazarene route, right? She thinks it's like Nazaire for branch. That's what she's doing, I think.
Oh, I said it's not Nazareth.
But the worrying thing about that then is you'll go in the whole David Koresh route.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it's a branch of David. It was a Davidian. What can you do?
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's true. All right. So well, we really can't speak for Carmen because,
No.
but except that she left a comment saying that we should be ashamed of ourselves, and this is in response to recently sharing the Halloween program, and that we would have to answer to God on Judgment Day. And I thought, what specifically upset her? I wonder.
Mm.
And so I went back and I watched that program, which makes me laugh every time I watch it. And you know what I noticed? Our top 10 only has 9.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Now, I don't know if that's what Carmen was complaining about. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Might have been. But we actually, now this is what I don't understand, people, is that it's over 2 years. It's 2 years old, that program. Thousands of people have watched that program and no one put up their hand and said, you missed one. And somehow, you know what happened? I don't know how we did this, but we went from, I think you counted down like, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and then went from 6 to 4 or something like that. In any case,
it's the thing, isn't it? When you've got 10 fingers, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. 6 and 5 is 11.
But following that, that's right. So we should have had 11.
But no, I think what happened was, yeah, we bunched 2 together and skipped 1. But actually, what it highlights really is how easy it is to just listen and read into something, and never kind of fact check or go back and think about what you've looked at.
That's right. And but just in case that is what Carmen was upset about, because we shortchanged her, we said 10 and it was 9. We thought because it's Halloween, it would be a good idea to throw one in to even it out, and just, because otherwise it's false advertising, it's fake news. We don't want to be a part of that, and and we want to be able to say, we told you we'd give you 10, and here's 10, and so what we thought we'd do is kick off in take something out of Mark chapter 6 to add to the top 10 to complete the top 10 Halloween stories of the New Testament.
EVW said there will be werewolves, correct? I can't guarantee werewolves.
Maybe we can slip in a werewolf here somewhere. I don't know. We'll see how we go. But you know what? Actually, Mark chapter 6 is good because it gives us a 2-for-1. It's a twofer as far as Halloween stories are concerned. So we're going to throw it. Not only are we going to make good on our promise for a top 10, but we're going to throw one in for free.
Okay.
You all didn't know that you were paying for this, but we'll talk about that later. But we're going to throw in one for free. Look, it's Mark chapter 6 starts. I've got my New King James Study Bible, right? Christian translation, which of course it should be if it's a New Testament.
Yeah, it has to be, really.
It kicks off saying Jesus rejected at Nazareth. I'm sure that must be relevant somehow, but we're not going to start there. We're going to start in. I'm going to start in verse 14. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is definitely Halloween worthy, this story. Okay. Now, King Herod, should I
You have to
my
do the
Anglican
voice.
voice?
Yeah,
I
totally.
do. Okay.
Yeah.
It's early in the morning here. It's not really early in the morning, but I still feel like I'm waking up. It's spring here, so I'm all nasally and hay fevery. But in any case, okay. This is Mark 6:14. Now King Herod heard him, for his name had become well known, and he said, "Heard who? Who did you hear? Do we have to go back?" Anyway, so King Herod heard him.
So previously in Mark 6, Jesus had been going around doing some crazy stuff, and the name of this person had elevated. But when it came to Herod that someone had been going around healing the sick, and especially he said, "Oh, it must be John, come back from the dead," and that's where we start now.
Oh, yeah, and then we have to go back and say why he's dead. Right, this is what happened. So he heard him, for his name had become well known, and he said, "John the Baptist is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." And so, therefore, here enters our Halloween theme. Others said it is Elijah, and others said it is the prophets, or like one of the prophets. But when Herod heard, he said, "This is John, whom I beheaded. Ugh. He has been raised from the dead, for Herod himself had sent and laid hold of John, bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias. Now get this, his brother Philip's wife. So Philip's wife's name is Herodias. Herodias ditches Philip and gets with Herod. So we're Herod and Herodias. Okay. For he had married her, because John had said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Fair enough, right?
Mm.
That's actually a thing. And John was right. Mikvah man was right. And because that is adultery. Okay. Therefore, Herodias held it against him and wanted to kill him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just and holy man. And he protected him. And when he heard, he did many things and heard him gladly. Herod did. Then an opportune day came when Herod, on his birthday, gave a feast for his nobles and the high officers and the chief men of Galilee. And when Herodias' daughter herself came in and danced and pleased Herod and those who sat with him. That's kind of a little bit suspicious.
The whole thing is super dodgy.
I don't think he came in and did the hokey pokey.
It's not good.
There's a joke there that we shouldn't.
No, we're not doing pokey jokes.
No pokey jokes. The king said to the girl, "Ask whatever you want, I will give it to you." And he also swore to her, "Whatever you ask me, I will give it to you up to half my kingdom." So she went out and asked her mum and said, "Hey, what should I ask for? What do you reckon?" And she said, "Ask for the head of John the Baptist." This is a girl. The mother says to the girl, "Go and ask for the head of some guy. I want it lopped off." And she came in with haste to the king and asked, saying, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." On a platter. She thought, "I can even do better than that, Mum. Not only will I get the head, but I'll get it on a platter." And the king was exceedingly sorry, yet because of the oaths and because of those who sat with him, he did not want to refuse her. Immediately, the king sent an executioner and commanded his head be brought, and he went and beheaded him in prison and brought his head on a platter, gave it to the girl. Man, like this is ISIS material.
And then the girl
gave it to Mum.
Right.
Said, "Happy Halloween. Party on. Stick this on a post outside our house." When his disciples heard of it, they came and took away his corpse and laid it in a tomb. Now I'm wondering, does that mean they took away his headless corpse and laid in a tomb?
Yeah, and it's John's disciples. John's disciples come and take John's body, and then John's disciples go and seek out Jesus.
It is.
Isn't there another story when they seek out Jesus and Jesus visits John?
Surely that was before this.
You'd think.
I hope so.
And also, the Gospels, they argue over whether Jesus started his ministry before or after John was beheaded. So it's that's kind of confuses too. The bluesman said she wanted it on a platter so she could eat it. Well, there is an interesting film.
Oh, the film. That's right. Okay, so what we have to explain to everyone. So if you haven't seen the last program, each of the 9, which we said were 10, you put a horror film to. So what would this one be?
Well, there is a film. I think it's called Dance of the Seven Veils, and it was about Oscar Wilde attending a theatrical performance of this story. And
really,
yeah, and there's an allusion. It's alluded to that Herodias fancied John the Baptist and threw herself at him, and he rejected her. And in the movie, she does kind of do something to the head, sitting, but we won't go there. But yeah, there's definitely a weird thing going on there with her, and then with the body, and then with Herod and the new daughter-in-law. It's twisted.
That's gruesome.
Yeah.
So that's just the lead up, folks. That's the support act. The real Halloween story that I want to get to from Mark chapter 6 is a little bit further on. And this starts in verse 45. And I want to tell this story in a way that probably hasn't been told, from an angle that probably hasn't been spoken about before, I think. And this, of course, this is entitled in my New King James, because I put little subheadings here, and it says, Jesus walks on the sea. Everyone knows this story. Jesus walks on water. And you think, well, what's scary about that? Well, we're going to get into it. Verse 45, immediately he made his daughters get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida. He sent the multitude away. So he's dealing with a multitude of people. He's over it. He's tired. We've just turned I think we just did a whole lot of feeding of the 5,000 with some fish and loaves and all that sort of stuff. And he's like, right, that was good. Everyone full? Yep. Okay. Bugger off. And you guys, you get in a boat, go away. Because you need some alone time, right? After that, you need some downtime. I understand what he's doing. You know, when you've been with a crowd, and particularly, I mean, maybe he was a bit of an introvert, perhaps. And when you spend a lot of time with a lot of people and your batteries run low really quick, and then you're just on nothing, and you're like, it's over. Got to go find myself a dark little corner in the dark, and just recharge a little bit, have some downtime. You like that? I'm like that. Yeah. That's not the story. So hang on, I won't drink tea yet. So this is what he says to him. He says, you know, get in the boat, off you go. And when he had sent them away, he departed to the mountains to pray. Now, when evening came, the boat, which his disciples were in, was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. And he saw them straining at rowing. Now get this. So he's up on a mountain. He's looking down at them in the boat, that close enough so that he can see that they're straining to row because of the weather, right? It's just sort of making it hard for them. And let's see, and straining to row, for the wind was against them. Now, about the fourth watch of the night. Now, what's the fourth watch? What time are we talking about? Do you know?
I have no idea.
All right, let's go down to my little study notes here. Fourth watch. Oh, there you go. So about 3 a.m. Yeah, that's what you want. See, this is. I think this is really this should be not called Jesus Walks on the Sea, but it should be called Jesus' Halloween Prank. Okay, is what I think it should be called. So here we are. Oh, I've just gone into. Okay, there we go. This is Jesus' Halloween Prank, and he gets this idea. He sees them trying to row. It's really hard. It's about 3 a.m. And now the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. Now, and it says, and he would have passed them by. They supposed it was a ghost and cried out, for they all of them saw him, and they were troubled. But immediately, we'll get to the immediately. I want to pause there because that's brushed over as if this was a thing that just sort of happened. Like he's up on a mountain, he sees them struggling, and he thinks, I've got a great idea. Yeah. So he goes down, right? And they don't know it's him. He knows that they don't know it's him. Why would anyone think it's anything but a ghost walking towards them on the water? I'd be freaking out. You'd be freaking out, surely. Anybody, when you stop and think about it, it's 3 a.m. and a body starts to walk on the water. Clearly, it's a ghost walking towards you, right? You're freaking out because why? Because the wind is blowing you towards this entity, this poltergeist, and you're rowing with everything in you. These guys would have been exhausted. They would have absolutely been exhausted. Now, just to illustrate this a little bit more, do you know how far out they were?
No, I do not.
Well, we have to go to the Gospel of John to illustrate how absolutely freaky this would have been. So we go to John chapter 6, and get this, right? This is hilarious. From verse 18, then the sea arose because there was a great wind blowing. So when they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near, and they were afraid, right? Because they didn't know it was Jesus. Now, here's a question, because this is the first thing that I thought of. How long does it take to walk 3 or 4 miles?
Yeah, isn't that like an hour? Isn't that like 4 miles to roughly an hour?
That's about an hour.
Right.
He was freaking them out at 3 a.m. It must have been, I imagine it would have been a full moon, right? Oh, there you go, bluesman, there's some werewolves. Okay. We can interject werewolves there somewhere, no doubt, prowling around on the shore just to sort of, but so I meant, because if they can see him from 3 or 4 miles out to sea, definitely it's a full moon.
So he's kind of on one of those travelators that you get at the airport, when you don't walk down the big long corridor, so you stand on the thing, but he's walking at the same time, so it looks like he's going real slow. He's actually
doing the moonwalk. He's doing the Michael Jackson. But this is the other thing, right? So because have you ever been ice skating?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been ice skating. So you and I have literally walked on water. But how difficult is it? I mean, it's really difficult just to ice skate. When the water is in liquid form, how hard must it be to actually get some sort of traction? Now, you've got some clever shoes. Tell us about your shoes.
I did my Merrells. Yeah, I've had my Merrells.
Yeah, tell us about the Merrells.
For about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now. I use them all the time, and they're made for everything. So they can go in water, and they've got special grips on the bottom. They never get slippery, and they dry off real quick. And yeah, I use them all the time. My Merrells are great.
Yeah, so maybe Jesus had something like Merrells. Yeah. I mean, they've got good grip underneath. I don't know how one gets grip in liquid. All I'm saying is that if there's wind blowing and there's waves and you're walking on liquid, all I'm saying is that if anything, it's going to slow you down. So if it takes a normal hour, right, to walk just on land, how much longer would it take walking on water is what I'm saying. So I'm saying this is at least an hour that he's freaking the disciples out. They're trying to row away from this thing that's walking directly towards them. And I imagine, okay, so it's a full moon. Jesus is wearing these white robes, as we often see him depicted. And g'day, Tanakh talk. William Hall, g'day, mate. And so he's all kind of white. And looking very ghostly, and he's approaching. So that needs to be said. That needs to be highlighted. That it would have taken at least an hour. These guys are rowing for all it's worth to try and get away from this poltergeist, but they're not going anywhere, and it's getting closer and closer and closer, and they're absolutely freaking out. Where were we up to? Going back to Mark 6.
It was a jet ski. It's the only answer. It's the only answer. He's there on a jet ski. I mean, it's Jesus. He could say, deliver unto me, jet ski. He probably had, like, I don't know, a shell or something. And then, whoosh, there it is. Now it's a jet ski.
All I'm saying is that I cannot, in all seriousness, I cannot imagine that Jesus would have thought that they wouldn't have been scared. I reckon he would have been laughing himself stupid from the shore all the way to the boat. I would have been, if I could walk on water towards my mates, and they're absolutely freaking out. So this is Jesus's Halloween prank. Then it says, but immediately. So in other words, when he gets there, he's thinking, because obviously it crosses his mind, because it says he would have just walked right past. So he's thinking that he might just sort of freak them out for at least an hour. And then when they can actually identify him, just go, "G'day, fellas," and just keep walking. But which would have been great, and I would have enjoyed the story much more had he decided to do that. Yeah. But I think he decided it was all too funny, and he said, "Hey, don't worry about it. It's just me."
All right,
be of good cheer.
He was freaking out that they were going to be either angry or start throwing himself off the boat. That's what it was. He had like doubts that whether this was actually funny. He was the only one laughing. No one else seemed to be having a good time.
But honestly, though, imagine you're a disciple. You're the disciple in the boat. You're absolutely exhausted now because you've been rowing while Jesus, who obviously commands the wind and the waves and all that sort of stuff, has made the wind blow the boat towards him while they're trying to get away. So they're absolutely exhausted, massive cardiovascular exercise, and they are spent. And as this poltergeist, comes within a stone's throw of the boat, are you thinking about jumping overboard? I don't know. I don't think that's going to make anything better for you. I think you may as...
The argument for me would be that what was the purpose of this? It had to be to freak them out. Because there are other instances when they're in the water and they're having a bad time, and he just calms the sea straight away.
Yeah, he calms the sea. But in this case, this is his fault. He set it up.
Yeah, he wants.
I reckon he might have had it in mind right at the very beginning when he said, "You guys go and get in your boat, and I'm just going to go and I'm just going to go and pray. But really what he was doing, he was going, I'll wait until you're about 3 miles out, 3-4 miles. Then I'll whip up a bit of a storm. Then I'll come and walk out towards you and freak you out.
It was the ultimate
This
trick or
is
treat.
it's a total setup. This is an absolute setup by Jesus. And so anyway, he says to them, and I have no doubt he is just doubled over laughing, be of good cheer. It is I. Don't be afraid. Yeah, good one, Jesus. Then he went up to the boat to them, and the wind ceased. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
See?
Yeah.
Now that I'm here and you guys are exhausted and I don't want to do any rowing and I just want you to row us back to wherever it is, I'm just going to make the wind stop. I'm just going to get in the boat now and laugh myself to sleep. Okay.
They were completely amazed, for they had not understood about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened. Thanks for that. Thanks for that nonsensical ad, Mark 4.
No, I think Mark put that in there just to sort of confuse us and say, something deeper and spiritual was going on. But in actual fact, Jesus was just having a bit of a joke with, to freak out his disciples. I would have been absolutely petrified. And when you think about how this would appear and how long this would have taken and everything that went on, if you view it from the damage control, if you view it from the disciples' perspective, this is definitely Halloween worthy, I think. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's not a great, although there's a great thing, I think it might be in Mark, and it he basically says, I've got it here somewhere. He basically says that he tells people things in code, so they end up going to hell. I'm going to try and find the thing, but someone asks, why do you say things in code? And he responds, I say it in code.
Oh, in case they believe.
In case they believe.
We don't want that. Well, do you know what? I think that is in John 6. I think that is John 6. I think it is. We were just there. Hang on a second. And because isn't it in John? Now this plays right into another Halloween story where Jesus says, eat me, eat my flesh, drink my blood, good stuff. And now I think it's in here.
So you have to wonder what was the purpose of the prank? What was the purpose of the walking on water? Because it certainly wasn't. I mean,
I think it was just for his own amusement. Yeah, honestly,
I'm a deity. I'm on the shoreline. I'm about to do this amazing thing. I'm going to walk 4 miles out into the sea in just a few minutes.
It's totally something you would expect to see on.
I'd have the T-shirt with "Look at me, I'm Jesus." An airplane.
If this was a scene in Bruce Almighty, right. I would absolutely. It makes sense. No, I think this is it. Hang on a sec. There are some of you who do not believe, for Jesus knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe and who would betray him. And he said, therefore, I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been. Oh, no, that's not it.
Oh, Mark 4.
That's Mark 4.
Yeah, Mark 4, 11 through 12.
Yeah. Don't want to give you too much information in case you believe. Because there's just some of you that I don't like. I don't want you in heaven. Go to hell. Keep it a secret from you people. Where does it say it?
In Mark 4, and he told them, the secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside, everything is said in parables. I mean, and it's explicitly said in parables so that people listening don't understand. It's just remarkable to me. There were a few other interesting Halloween-y horror type things that I pulled up. Just
what do you got?
Kind of nasty ones. Actually, you know what? I found a really interesting list of objectionable things in the New Testament, and I went through and I kind of pulled out the ones which were related to, if you don't believe me, you're going to go to hell. And there's too many to mention. I got, I think I got up to about 120, and I had to stop.
You got up to 120?
Yeah, 120, and then I had
one of those we did highlight in the previous program. Oh no! It was the transubstantiation program that we did.
Right.
When we realized that if you drink Jesus's blood, then you break a Torah commandment, go to hell.
Yeah.
But Jesus says, if you don't drink my blood, go to hell.
Yes, right.
So either way, go to hell. Catch 22. Anyway, continue. You've got 120 of these. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of those.
No, we won't. We won't.
Okay. We'll pick some good ones.
Those who bear bad fruit will be cut down and burned with unquenchable fire. So the fire thing pops up a lot. The hell and the fire thing pop up a lot. I mean, it's interesting that it doesn't really pop up in the Tanakh at all. It's, especially in Matthew, those who will bear good fruit will be hewn down and cast into the fire. So, sorry, those who fail to bear good fruit will be hewn down and cast into the fire. We did the pig one. We'll put a link up onto this video when it's not live anymore, with the top 10/9 that we did last time. And just skimming through these to see the ones.
Everyone's going, what's the pig one? So the pig one is when there was the wildly demon-possessed man, and all the demons that were in the man said to Jesus, "Hey, can you just cast us into the pigs?" And Jesus said, "Cool, cast you into a herd of 2,000 pigs." Immediately, the 2,000 pigs rushed down a cliff into the sea and drowned. Which now it all comes together. Now I shared a couple of programs that I thought were kind of Halloweeny, right? One of them was The Wizard of Oz. Remember that? Because it has the title, the word wizard in the title, where we talked about where this was Colin's crazy comment.
Yeah.
And he talked about water spirits, right? Colin was a Hebrew roots person. And the only thing that we could think of when he was talking about water spirits were the demons in the pigs that ran into the water. Maybe they're now entrapped, 2,000 demons, trapped in the water.
It does
because the pigs ran in there.
Yeah, it begs a question, doesn't it? Do the demons in the New Testament, are they contained to the body after the body dies, and or can they physically drown as spiritual creatures? I mean, what would sending the pigs into the water do to the?
My point exactly.
Yeah, it's an odd thing.
Yeah.
Jesus says that we should fear God since He has the power to kill us and then torture us in hell forever. Mark 12:5. That's just not. It's not the reason. This is one of the biggest reasons I think that it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition. So Halloween generally here, there aren't many people that actually believe in Halloween. It's kind of social holiday. People, they like dressing up and they like the scare and everything, but they don't do it because they're fearful of any kind of deity. They do it because they're fearful of mortality for the most part, and they want a day where they don't have to worry about mortality. But Jesus' presumption in the New Testament is that you should fear God since He can destroy your soul and put you in hell forever. That's why you should fear God, not for any good reason, not a positive reason, but because of fear and hate. That's where he's going with it. And it's amazing, actually. John the Baptist says that Christ will burn the damned with unquenchable fire. It says in Mark 3:17. Now, that's interesting, actually, because I don't really remember John the Baptist ever saying anything like that. Sorry, Luke 3:17. I'm going to just look that up while I'm going.
Luke 3:13. Yeah, because there is the whole. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think we touched briefly on the hell thing in the previous program, but we didn't go right into it.
Oh, there we go. Luke 3:17. And his winnowing fork is in his hand to clear his threshing floor and gather the wheat into his barn, but he will burn up the chaff with unquenchable fire. So now the Christian Bible says that that's talking about Jesus, but it's not, because John at this point is just speaking about a Messiah who's to come. He doesn't call Jesus out at all. If anything, I feel sorry for John, because John starts off as a bit of a mensch. You know, he's a top guy. There's thousands of people queuing up at the Jordan every week.
He just wants to mikvah everyone. Yeah. That's all. He's got good intentions. He just wants to mikvah everyone, and just sort of. He's kind of like the McDonald's of mikvah. He's the drive-through.
Drive-through mikvah.
He's the drive-through mikvah.
The mikvah.
And he just thinks to himself, it's got to be easier. There's a lot of people that everyone should be mikvahed, and I'm the man to do it. And he raises up his hand and says, "I'll do the fast food mikvah." And
then, just like everywhere else, the some of the proponents of the upper echelons of religion on the day, they turn up as well, and they say, "You're not doing it right. You're doing it really badly. You should stop." And he's kind of, you go and do what you do, and I'll do what I do. But yeah, it's interesting that as the Gospels go on, he becomes such a small character. And you know, Jesus in the beginning of the story really starts off saying, "Hey, John, you're the man. I love everything you've done. Thanks for that Lord's Prayer thing. That was awesome. I'm going to take that for my own." And then by the end, John's this tiny character that doesn't get any props.
Yeah, but doesn't John say that though? Doesn't he say I should decrease so that he can increase?
He said that, but why doesn't he say it in all of them?
Why indeed? Whatever it was, as far as Israel's Got Talent, and that's really what the show is. Jesus wins out, John loses. Yeah.
Let's have a look. So we are specifically looking for horrible things today. Where do you think, this is often one of the cool things, so when I do my little tours around Dublin, we pass Starbucks. And so I know I'll kind of point and I'll say, do you know who the character is on the front of your Starbucks cup? And I'll talk a little bit about Easter and its fable backgrounds and Easter.
Yeah, right. So there's some sort of mermaid thing. What is that again? Just fill me in.
Yeah, so there was a Babylonian stroke Germanic goddess, Ostara or Ostara. There's a few different names. And she had a fishtail or sometimes two fishtails. And babies would be sorted at the beginning of the year for a good harvest. And then they'd paint eggs in the blood of the babies and bury them in the ground. And that's, because eggs have always been kind of a symbol of rebirth. But she in particular, that's kind of one of the rituals they had. And it's one of the reasons we get Easter egg hunts and we get painted Easter eggs. That's kind of an old folk tradition that goes back, especially in Europe, a long time. But yeah, she's the lady on the front of your Starbucks cup. Starbuck is just a character from Moby Dick, and it's nothing to do with the picture. But when I was reading through these lists of kind of the horror side of the New Testament, the kind of the gory parts, the wailing and gnashing of teeth comes up a few times.
Right.
So I'm curious as to if you have any insight into why wailing and gnashing of teeth is a thing. Is it to do with maybe I'll tell you why. Okay, so this past weekend Dublin had a Stoker festival because Bram Stoker, the originator and creator of Dracula, he lived in Dublin. He was born here.
Yeah, right.
And he lived down the road from let's say a hospital, and the hospital was for people with mental and physical issues, but for mostly I think it was TB and some other stuff, and it would make their gums recede and they'd bleed and they'd get white and gaunt.
Right. So their teeth seem elongated. The thing that I love about that book, I've actually read that book. So I traveled through Eastern Europe reading that book, and the book is set out like a diary, right? And so it's set out chronologically. On this day, this happened. On this day, this happened. It was really, really cool, particularly if you're in the places where it's supposed to be set. Sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. So yeah, he would have seen people who seemed to be out of their mind, and they looked like they were kind of craving blood because they were so pale and they had big bloody teeth and things. And that gave him the idea of Dracula. And I mean, the Transylvania thing's quite interesting too, because he basically spun a globe and put his finger on it and popped in, and there it was, Transylvania. So I'm just wondering if maybe the wailing and gnashing of teeth came from like leper colonies. You know, they'd generally be given a cave somewhere and told not to leave.
So they're put in quarantine, in an area in quarantine, saying maybe you're right. Just on that, before you go further, I think also something that or it's speculated that that which contributed to Bram Stoker's Dracula was the story of Elizabeth Bathory.
Oh, the Countess.
The Countess. She was and again, Eastern European, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she would try to retain her youth and beauty by bathing in the blood of virgins. I think this is supposed to be a true story.
It is a true story, yeah. She slaughtered dozens and dozens of young women, and then she applied the blood to her face, and I think she tried to soak in it too.
18th and 19th centuries.
It's a freaky thing, but that's that whole blood thing. It's one of the really standout things with the Hebrew Bible versus other I don't want to say religion, because there's plenty of really kind of vegan-y, vegetarian religions out there. If you're if you're a vegan and you're a Sikh, Sikhs have it going on. They don't hurt anybody. And it's interesting that something like Christianity is so into the blood idea. It's and I think it completely comes from Rome's sales plan. Rome rolls into country. Country says, "What are you here for?" Rome says, "Got this really good thing. It's called Christianity. This guy Jesus, he's your man. He'll sort you out." And I'll say, "Yeah, well, at the moment we kind of worship this guy Mithras. Born on the 25th December, born in a cave." It's like, yeah, no, that's Jesus. He just changed his name around a bit, and the blood thing comes up in so many different places.
It does. Now, just before we continue, Vlad the Impaler, of course, is Dracula, and that's the main contributor to the story as far as Bram Stoker's concerned. But again, would impale many people on top of like kebab, kind of gross.
The Haman of history. Yeah,
he's the Haman of history. Pretty gross. So yeah, I've never really thought about that before. When I think of wailing and gnashing of teeth, I always think of in the movies when they're about to remove a bullet from someone and they stick it like piece of like a stick in their mouth and says, grit on this, because when you're in absolute agonizing pain, for some reason it would appear we need to sort of grit our teeth, and certainly wail. So it's certainly an indication of great pain and anguish, I suppose.
I guess, yeah, because they must have known roughly what was going on. Isn't there a gate in Israel? It's really old. The Romans worshipped there, and people did before, and it's meant to be like a gate to hell, a gate to Hades. That's going to wreck my head. There's a great one here. If anyone dares to disagree with Paul on religious matters, he says, let him be accursed. I think that's a proper that's happening today in the news. You'll get people and they'll stand up and they'll say, if anyone comes against me or what I've said, it's fake news. That's all I'm going to say.
You can't help yourself. You can't help yourself. We're not getting into politics.
No, not today.
You and I are slightly apart on politics.
I have to mention the Pence.
Do we do that now? Do you want to do that now?
Yeah,
so to be fair, I haven't I shared this on Facebook.
Yeah.
I will admit I have not done the full research on this, so I don't really know. But obviously there's been terrible news. Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
This is not the program to go into that. But it's horrible. In a memorial service or something where Mike Pence attended, there were prayers offered, and one of the people who offered the prayers included a Messianic rabbi. In other words, a Christian dressed up as a Jew, pretending to be a rabbi. That seemed incredibly distasteful. And I don't know if it was Pence who said, hey, you'd be a nice addition to this. Can you come in? Or if this guy happened to be there. Now, I have seen reports that said it wasn't Pence's doing to include this guy. It was someone else who had him included. And I don't know if there were a number of religious expressions that offered thoughts and prayers and comfort. But do you know more about this? I don't know. Maybe those who are g'day CBB. Who's CBB? 1962.
I do not know. They've got these, I think they have their names in code, so we don't know who they are.
Yeah, they're encrypted.
So we go to hell.
Don't know. So now, by the way, let's just digress just a second. Eastern Orthodox says, CBB says, Clint, g'day, Clint. That's Clint.
Oh, brilliant. Hi, Clint.
Yeah, Clint Brenham. He's about to leave to head to your neck of the woods. He says Eastern Orthodox still have blood red Easter eggs. Yeah, I've heard that, and that's a tradition that goes back many centuries. And you're probably right; it's probably related to that which Jason was talking about. He says Pence swing and a miss. Yeah, so I don't know, Clint, if it was Mike Pence if it was his idea to have this guy here, And
It says that reading from the Huffington Post,
yeah.
wearing a Jewish prayer shawl, Lauren Jacobs invoked Yeshua, a Hebrew word for Jesus. Oh, okay. In his prayers, and it said that Pence later called on Jacobs, whom he described as a leader in the Jewish community here in Michigan, to say a special prayer. And the prayer said, "Lord, I pray that we would see fewer and fewer horrible tragedies like this. I pray this B'Shem Yeshua, in the name of Jesus." Now, this guy wrote an essay arguing that Jews who do not embrace Jesus as Savior cannot go to heaven when they die, and that goes into some detail about with offcuts of his essay. So he's no friend of my friend Rabbi Skobek always says. Sorry, not Rabbi Skobek, Rabbi Federo. He'll say Christians always say that they always say they love Jews, but if you ask them if they love Judaism, they have an issue.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, they love the human being.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about what the human being believes, it gets to be a bit of a worry.
That's right. But to be fair to this guy, he is actually correctly representing his religion because his New Testament says as much. I mean, the other horrible, again, I don't want to get dragged into this, but the horrible events in Pittsburgh was a textbook case of Christian anti-Semitism. He quotes from the New Testament. He blames the Jews for this, that, and the other. And he goes and, obviously he doesn't represent Christianity as a whole. There are many, many Christians that would not agree. And actually, I have come to soften somewhat on attacking Christianity in this last few months, particularly since the move of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, the American embassy, recognizing that Jerusalem is in fact the capital, with in mind that that happened primarily off the back of a massive push of support, not from American Jewry, but from the evangelical Christians, much to the leadership of John Hagee, who we've often. He's an interesting guy, and we've had some fun with him in the past. But John, nevertheless, has made some very, very amazing speeches. Very charismatic man in support of Israel that I've listened to, and I've been moved very much by them. And John Hagee believes in dual covenant theology, right? Which I think is someone that we can hold hands with, because he believes that the Jew should be true to the covenant that Sinai, right, the Torah, that the Christian is saved through the covenant of the New Testament, whatever that means to him. Okay, well, if that means that you're not going to proselyte and you're not going to push a Christian agenda obviously, as far as Christian prophecy is concerned, you are hoping for a different outcome. But from a Jewish perspective, well, we don't believe that's ever going to come to fruition. So in the meantime, let's be friends. And that's what Hagee offers. And more people who get behind that, and they may not know, these Christians may not know the finer details of what Hagee believes and holds to. It's certainly not mainstream Christianity, but in their understanding that Israel is prominent, and that those who bless Israel will be blessed, and so on and so forth, and are supportive of Israel. I'm like, thank you very much. I think it's a wonderful thing.
I think it's a bit of an issue, isn't there, for me? On the one hand, I'm thinking it's amazing, it's so long as there are these millions and millions and millions of Christians who absolutely love Israel and love Jews, then you've got this huge support in your corner. The problem, I think, is the why they love Israel. So I wonder if Israel was just a country that didn't have anything to do with their religious text, whether the support would be as strong, because there's going to be a day maybe where the governmental kind of control of the country maybe holds a lot of very religious sway, and they'll say, "This is now Israel. We are the people of the book. We are Jews. We won't now allow certain public shows of religiosity outside of the Tanakh because we don't believe that that's something that God would want in his country." And at that point, I wonder whether that support would still be there. And that's kind of the worry. You're building building on support of millions of people is awesome, and it's great that they do support Israel. So long as the support for Israel is for Israel and support for the Jews is for Jews.
Well, like I said, I do believe that Christians obviously expect a different outcome.
Yeah.
That's in their favor. I mean, really, when we get to, we haven't even touched Revelation in as far as the Halloween theme is concerned, and
just read the whole thing.
Just read the whole thing, because it's not so much scary as it is a bit of an acid trip, I think.
Yeah.
But as far as Revelation is concerned, a big giant, heavenly Jerusalem comes out of the sky and squashes us all, at least in Israel. And then all the Christians move in to this big, massive thing that reaches, like, it's so big. If you look at the dimensions of what they're talking about, of what John's talking about on the island of Patmos, if you were to take the elevator to the top of the New Jerusalem, you'd probably just float out to space. That's how big it is.
And you've got it's all sways where a third of you are just going to die and a third of you will only be poisoned. So don't worry about that. A third of you are going to be okay. And that's only if you make it past the first kind of big war gambit. And then there's going to be the fire and the brimstone, and then there's going to be the miniature horses with the scorpion's tails and ladies' heads and the little crowns on. Once you get past that, it's going to be easy sailing. Oh, man.
It comes good. Oh, man. We've done programs on that before as well. Excuse me while I... Hay fever. Oh, my goodness, man. The pollen count in the air at the moment, it's just crazy. If I go outside, I've got so many peas and beans and just all this stuff happening in my garden. But I go out there to pick them. By the time I come back in, my face is melting. This is, by the way, it's very selfish decision to take the Tanakh tour that we do every year in November. I do it in November so I can leave Australia because the pollen count is so high that it's just nice to have a break.
Here we go. Revelations 9:15 through 19. 4 angels with an army of 200 million killed a third of the Earth's population. That's one of the a third of the Earth's population.
Yeah.
What I don't get about that, in fact, about the whole thing, is that why wouldn't God mention that earlier on? I'll say this, but I won't say who it was. But there was a particular person who contacted me a few months ago, and they were having real issues. I'm still talking to them because of the New Testament for them was very compelling, and they're worried. They're worried that they might be wrong and they'll go to hell. And they read these things in Revelations, and they say, well, what about this, and what about the curse, and what about torment, and what about suffering, and what about hell, and that's your life forever and ever. And I say, like, what? Who do you think the God is of Revelation? The God of Revelation, if he's the same God as the Tanakh, can only be the God of, I'm not going to tell you because I want you to suffer. That's the only God it can be. It can only be the God of, if I really loved you, I'd have told you on day one when I said, Moses, write down all these things, and while you're doing it, can I just mention the scorpions and the third of the people dying and the bitter herb and all this. But it's fear keeps it going. I think you're right. Revelations is probably the most Halloween-y. Next year we'll do Revelation. We'll pick the most 10 scary things.
All right. Well, I think we'd have to do the whole of Revelation. We'd have to flick through it. And okay, so maybe we can do that next year. So let's take a break because everyone's talking to us and we're not acknowledging them. This is the first time I've done live, and I feel like I should be paying more attention to people that are tuned in. So William says, how can I share this to my Facebook from my phone? That I'm the wrong person to ask. Jason.
If you are on your mobile phone and you're watching this via YouTube, there should be a thing that says share underneath. When you click that, your Facebook page should be one of the options that comes up to share too. That's that easy. So copy and paste the web address and then just post it onto Facebook.
Now, he also said a bit further up, Thanos. Now, I think if I remember correctly, Thanos is the Greek god of death, which is often a consort of Hades, which is the Greek god of the underworld. Is that what you're referring to, William? Because it's interesting that you say that, because we do find in Revelation them mentioned together as Greek gods, thrown into, well, in English it says hell and death are thrown into the lake of fire, but in actual fact in the Greek it is Hades and Thanos, I think, thrown into.
Not to be confused with Thanos from
Infinity Wars, he says.
Yeah, it's based on the same person, to be fair.
Is it?
Yeah, they borrow from Greek and Norse all the time.
Right.
Not even obviously. Some of this stuff is very random. The reason that the Hulk is green is because they happen to have lots of green at the time. But yeah, Thanos is definitely a link to Thanos. That's kind of a cool thing. But then lots of the mythology works that way. I like it. It's one of the things I find kind of interesting about the Bible stories and other people, that when I get to go on the tour, and I'll be with, there might be Christians there, or there might be various different levels of observance within Jewish groups, and some of them don't know anything about anything, and some of them know a lot about everything. And I'll mention something like St. Patrick. I'll say, "What do you know about St. Patrick?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's this really amazing Irish guy." And I'll be like, "Wrong." "What do you know about Arthur Guinness?" "It's not English. He was English. He wasn't Irish." And Duke of Wellington, he was totally Irish. And when we get onto like Patrick and the Druids and getting rid of all the snakes, and even the Hill of Tara and the Ark of the Covenant connection, I kind of find it funny that there's all these pagan things in the background that stick into modern culture. The broken thing. So that's an interesting thing. It's just sprung into my mind when Jesus said, "This is my body broken for you." There's a tradition within Roman religiosity. So when you had the pantheon of Roman gods, you would roll up to your favorite Roman god, and there'd sometimes be a spring in front of their building, and you take a very expensive thing that you own and break it and throw it in, and that was the sacrifice you gave to that god.
Right, I remember you telling me about this. Yeah, and throw it into the water.
Yeah, so I think there's a direct link there, because it's not found. It's always a bit of a bell. If you read something in the New Testament and you can't echo that back from the Tanakh, then that has to be in there for another reason.
All right, I've got to interrupt again just for a second, because we've gone for an hour and we haven't even done an ad. And you were just talking about your tour, and I want you to do a quick promo. Go for it.
All right, so if you're coming to Ireland anytime soon or next year, you can book me to show you the Jewish side of Dublin's history. 1,000 years of Jewish history here in Dublin. It's a good tour.
Yeah.
Talk about the IRA and how 1 in 5 fighters that stood with their neighbours, Free Irishmen, against the English in the uprising were Irish. The first person allegedly to be shot and killed in the Irish Civil War was Jewish. And we smuggled guns and did a lot of cool stuff. And Spock, totally Jewish. Not just because of Leonard Nimoy, but the way he looked, also because of a Jew. There's lots of good stuff. So you can book me. I'm super cheap.
Jewish Dublin walking tours. Jewish Dublin walking tours. There is a Facebook page that you can go to, like that page, and next time you're traveling in going that way, make sure you get Jason to show you around. Yeah, you've been really busy with that.
Yeah, it's actually gone really well. I know I was a bit pessimistic, because I always am, but I had a really great summer. I'm looking forward to 2019. I'm taking bookings for that already, which is kind of cool. Now, tour. Tell us about your tour.
Okay, before I do, William, I'll get back to what William said, because that's interesting. The Tanakh tour, we do it every year. The Tanakh tour, myself, Rabbi Tovia Singer, Ross Nichols. And g'day, Ross. Ross is still in the desert of Judea at the moment. I'm going to be talking to him tonight, so we'll hear all about the adventures of Ross. You'll get that, I guess, tomorrow. Tour. Oh, two people just joined it. They managed the 11th hour. Just got in, because it begins on the 11th of November. So g'day to Mia and Kathy, who's going to be joining us. There's 35 people on the tour this year. Wow. It's going to be great. We're going to some places in the north that we've never been to before, and that's thanks to our tour guide, Gershon. we needed we wanted to have a religious Zionist tour guide, and I was just finding it difficult to find someone. I was talking to Tovia about it, and Tovia said, just ring Tamar Yona, right, of Israel News Talk Radio. Go there, people, if you've never been there, israelnewstalkradio.com. We do a program there. What is it? Israel on My Mind, Ross and myself, and you, Jason, filling in from time to time. And originally, you were the co-host. And I rang Tamara and I said, look, this is what we're after. And the first name that she came up with was Gershon Portnoy. We used him last year as our tour guide. Absolutely brilliant, really, really good. Looking forward to seeing him again, but this is his specialty up in the north. So he's taking us to some places we've never been, and we're really looking forward to that. Next year, same dates, 11th of November to the 19th of November. If you go to truth2u.org, truth2u.org, you'll see the links of the Tanakh Tour of Israel 2019. We would love you to come with us. Join us next year in Jerusalem. It's going to be a great time. Now, William just said, on Yom Kippur, a tradition is to throw bread pieces into a flowing river, representing casting your sins away per se. That's true. There is that tradition. Maybe it came from a similar thing. I mean, if that's the Roman, I mean, who knows? You might be right.
Yeah, I mean, most of those, I think, really kind of generally there's a few routes. There's an interesting thing where these three-sided wall structures called dolmens. They're in County Clare in Ireland, and they're in southern France, and they're in the Golan Heights in Israel, and they're built to the same spec, slightly different rock, but to the same spec. And you have to ask, is it a shared people or a shared teaching? So, but I think most things generally date back to or trace back to just one or two people. Do they live in Israel? They do, don't they? The two people that are joining.
Clint was just saying to live in. Yeah, they do have. They've got family in Israel. They're arriving early, and they're going to go and hang out with their fam and meet us at the airport, Clint. And so it's good. I'm really excited. So that brings us up to 35. I'm wrapped.
Do you want to? Well, I've got one question.
Go on.
But do you want to get into it, because it's quite a heavy question.
Oh man, I don't know. Okay, but we're live. You can't say I'm going to ask you heavy. I don't even know what it's going to be.
Have to put a pin in it right now.
You're
going to have to put a pin in this, or you can just refuse to answer. So there was some Jewish. There was some Jewish voices after the Pittsburgh shooting.
Oh man, we're going back there. Okay.
That refused to call the building a synagogue.
Because they were conservative.
Right.
All right. So what are my thoughts on that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say, I think a Jew is a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. I don't.
Okay, but then you have to decide. You have to define what a Jew is. You can say that, but that's according to your definition of what a Jew is. Well, anyone can say that. An Orthodox person can say that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. But what that definition is entirely different to perhaps what a Reform Jew, their definition. So I like to quote Ben Gurion that said, anyone who wants to be a Jew is a Jew. But again, it depends on how you define a Jew. Clint knows a little bit about this topic. It's a horrible thing to be rejected by someone you regard as a brother. So, but at the same time, let's just step back into the Christian world for a second, of which you and I came out of. Catholics, how do Catholics view Protestants?
As the enemy?
Are they? Would a Catholic say that a Protestant is a true Christian?
I think they would say that they weren't a Catholic, because if you're a Catholic, your Christianity is second place to. See, a Protestant in England maybe would say, "I'm a Christian. I go to a Protestant church," but they wouldn't. A Catholic wouldn't ask if you're a Protestant or if you're a Christian. They'd say, "Are you Catholic?" That's the only thing that counts.
Here's a real question: would the Pope regard Protestants as true Christians?
Oh, it's a very good question, isn't it?
I don't know, but I suspect that the answer would be no. I would suspect that their theology, I think I have done some. It's been a long time, but I do believe that the theology of the Catholic is, unless you have taken part in the sacraments of the Catholic Church, you've jumped through the hoops and converted to Catholicism, you are not a true Christian. It's just part of their theology, the way that they view things. And it's not a total. I admit, people, this is not an entirely fair parallel. So I'm not, but I would say that from the Orthodox perspective, there are those of the view that Jews that are of the Reformed, let's say, expression, are not true Jews according to the Orthodox definition. It's still rough, but you can't deny that which has been their theology for many centuries. Do you see my point?
Yeah.
It comes down to definition, and I do think that. Let me put it another way: when such a horrible tragedy occurs, then is not the time to go, oh yeah, but then they're not really. That's not the time for that. So. It really isn't the time, so just don't bring that up. You know what I mean?
Lynn said the rabbi was misquoted about not being in the synagogue. She's gone to look up the article. And I do remember him saying that in a building which has a very Jewish atmosphere, something along those lines. And when he was asked about it, he wouldn't say, it's not that he said it wasn't, but he wouldn't say it was. And then, then you go to Israel, and Israel's perspective is, if you've gone through a Reform or a Conservative or an Orthodox conversion, you are entitled to go and live in Israel. You can make Aliyah on that ground. That for them, for Israel as a state, those three things are enough. That you're a Jew in some, it's different when you get there. I think, and like if wedding or if you want to get married there, you have to have had an Orthodox one. But to get in the country and to get your passport, and to for Israel, the state and the government to accept you as a Jewish person.
But so I hear what you're saying, but again, so many arguments or misunderstandings come about because of there isn't a clarification of definition of terms prior to the discussion. And when it comes to the word Jew, what is a Jew is something that needs to be people need to say, well, my definition is X, and someone else may say, well, my definition is Y. Well, at least we don't have to agree, but at least when we proceed in this conversation, we know what you mean when you say that and what I mean when I say that. So I kind of think that that's the way we need to proceed. The term Jew can mean a lot of different things to different people.
It's almost impossible, isn't it? Because you've got there's your family line, and then there's your faith.
Right. Now, this is an interesting thing, because the way that it's been pitched a lot on, at least on the US news that I've watched, is that these people were befell victims to a hate crime because of their faith, not because it doesn't say because of their ethnicity, but because of their faith. And I don't know. I mean, I think really, I think it is more an ethnic issue than a faith issue. Should we are secular Jews safe because they don't practice the faith of Abraham? They're not religious. Are they safe? Therefore, I don't think it worked for them during World War II.
No.
I think it's an ethnicity. But then when we have the discussion about, well, what about people who convert and so on and so forth? But yeah, you really took it to a deep place. We were just going to have a fun Halloween program here, but we should definitely say that we absolutely do feel for those in Pittsburgh, the affected families, friends, relatives. It's just an absolutely horrible thing. I do believe it's confirmed that it has been the worst anti-Semitic attack in the States in its history. Absolutely horrible, inexcusable. It's just disgusting. So we certainly feel for those who are affected, and thoughts and prayers. What else can you do?
Actually, what else can you do? If you've got If you know that if there are support groups and fundraisers and stuff like that, then send them to me on Facebook, and I'll put them all up on my page tomorrow. And we'll give people the opportunity to throw some dollars towards some people that can help. That would be a good thing to do. And if you, because I think we're going to round up now. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired.
Well, we can't leave it on a low note. We've got to do something. We've got to bring it out. Let's get out of here because it's Halloween and all that sort of stuff. We've got to end on something a bit cheery. What can we do?
Let me go through my list. I'm going to pull up
one more from the list.
One more good one from the list. All right. Christians will fight in the war between Jesus and those allied with the beast. So Revelation 17:14. We're going to read that out and talk about it for a few minutes. It's funny. I think Revelations is like one of the books I really didn't bother much about when I was a Christian. I think because it terrified me so much. I loved those Left Behind movies.
Oh, Tim LaHaye, yeah.
I just thought they were amazing. And what they did is they allow you to become like a Hollywood star in your real life. Because you walk down the street and you're like, yeah, see that guy over there? He's not going to make it. Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to take the mark. Everyone's telling me about that RFID chip.
Yeah, not going to take the chip.
I'm not going to take the chip. He will. Yeah. He's a fool. They're going to mark him.
He doesn't know what I know. I've got the special knowledge.
They've already marked him. They're going to find my clothes in my bed. They'll be like, what happened to him? They won't know. I'll be up there flying in the sky on the way to heaven. And he'll be
you
there.
Wear clothes to bed?
Well, sometimes. I didn't want to. I mean, what else would I be leaving behind?
You can't afford pajamas and you have to wear your clothes to bed.
Wouldn't that be really confusing? If we're all wrong, everyone that doesn't wear pajamas to bed or anything, or is swimming, like skinny dipping, no one's going to really know if they're missing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you happen to be in the shower when it happens, no one's going to know that you're gone.
Yeah, I think you've just left your shower on.
Well, yeah, that's true. No, but if you're not dressed for any reason, I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's practical. And why does it say that clothes get left behind anyway? And
there'll be search parties. There'll be people out looking for you.
Yeah,
and you'll just be gone because you weren't wearing any clothes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think people are thinking it through.
No.
Actually,
which is why I'm saying. So maybe that's why. Jesus interrupts the Battle of Armageddon in the Book of Revelation, and this is Revelation chapter 6, and he just interrupts and says, "Look, you're about to have this massive war. That's fine. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to let you know that you should keep some clothes nearby." Kind of suggesting that they're naked. Hang on, let me just find that.
It doesn't say that, does it?
It's in. It should be easy to find because it should be in red. It should be in red because Jesus says it, right? Is it in? It's not Revelation 6. Where is it?
I'm just on the side note. If you're watching at home and you haven't seen it, don't show this to your kids. And if you've got like moral sensibilities, don't watch it. But there's a film called Lollapalooza, and in Lollapalooza, the devil comes back, and it's the end of the world basically. There's a really funny bit when Jesus is coming down on a big white horse to try and take out the devil. It like had me in stitches for a long time. Just thinking about it makes me giggle. Lollapalooza. Not Lollapalooza. Yeah, Rapturepalooza. Sorry, it's Rapturepalooza. Check it out. It's very funny.
Okay. So it's actually chapter 16 with all the bowls. There's the first bowl, second bowl, third bowl, and it's all very Halloweeny actually. If you really want to get into it, it's a good thing. Verse 15, Jesus interrupts the whole bowl thing and just says, "Behold, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." Won't everybody see everyone's shame if they're raptured and all their clothes fall off? I guess by then maybe it doesn't matter, but
well, is that your new body then that you fly up with? Are you you get turned into kind of like an action man? You're jointed, but your genitals have gone, and you've got.
I don't think we're going to be walking the earth going, "Oh, there's some genitals on the ground. Someone obviously got raptured."
I don't know.
I don't think it's going to be like that. There's some genitals and some clothes.
Why not?
There was obviously a rapture. See, people, now you know why I pre-record because I would edit that out. I'd totally edit out the genital bit. Absolutely, I would.
I'm going to edit out me from this whole thing and just put it titled Jono's
Just me like a crazy
it.
person. Just me by myself rambling on about genitals.
Jono's lost it. Proof positive. Carmen is going to love this. Carmen.
Do you reckon she'll watch it?
Oh, Carmen is like...
She's secretly one of our... We're kind of like her guilty pleasure, I think.
Really, she's like chocolate. She knows she shouldn't have too much, but she can't help it. she goes around. She blocked us, so she's gone to all.
No, she hasn't blocked us. No. Oh, well, she did once, maybe. But oh, you're blocked. I'm not blocked. Listen, you know what? Every now and then, she and I have a chat. And it can be a really nice chat, and I like talking to her. Actually,
yeah, I do too. I've got a lot of time for Carmen. I mean, she gets a really rough time, and one thing that really upsets me is when people are mean to her in my feeds.
Yeah, it's not on.
You know, even if she gets a bit anxious or angry, there's no reason for people to call her names or like. Exactly. It's just not right. There's no.
I would.
I've got no room for that.
I would block someone who did that.
Yeah, I've done that before. I've no room for that on my page. Yeah. You know, if you don't agree, that's fine, but there's no reason to be hateful to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that might be a good time to
Ken and Barbie Rapture Edition.
Yeah.
Glenn said. Ken and Barbie. That's right.
But isn't it just going to be an empty box with some clothes on the bottom?
That's it. Flying in the air naked. Yes, Clint. Flying in the... It's one of my dreams. I'd love to do that.
You're flying in the air.
I'm not a big fan of clothes. You know, if I could. See, this is another thing that I would edit out. But now I can't. It's out there now.
Yeah.
I would edit this out. But now...
Jono standing in Australia in the outback, swinging in the breeze. Happy as Larry.
Man. Do you know what? I actually had a dream I had the weirdest dream last night. You know that I can't tell jokes. If there's a scripted joke, I just can't do it. Jason can do it, but I can't do it. I'm really bad at retelling jokes. I'm just horrible at it. But I had this dream last night. I'm just remembering it now. That I was in a crowd. I was on a stage. I was behind a drum kit, and I was the only person on the stage. And everyone, I think, was waiting for the main event or something. And everyone's looking at me. So I thought, I'll tell a joke. Told the joke. Absolutely fell flat. Didn't even get one laugh. Didn't even get the encouragement laugh. You know when you're in, you know when someone's doing the stand-up comedy, live stand-up comedy, and it's not really funny, but there's that one person in the crowd that does the encouragement laugh, and that's even worse than not having a laugh.
And did you get the boom boom tish and then look down and realize it was you doing it?
No, but in hindsight now, I wish I'd done that because I had a drum kit right in front of me. At least then I would have, but then instead there was just this silence. And then after that, oh, wait, hang on. What happened after that? So then the dream took a radical turn and I started beating up Nazis. 3.
Wow.
I took down 3. That part of the dream was awesome. I think I needed a distraction from the fact that my joke fell flat. That and recent horrible news, I think I just thought, let's dream about beating up Nazis. And so I dreamt about beating up Nazis, and that was good. I took out 3, and I felt so confident in myself that I just shouted out to them all, does anyone else want some of this? And you know what happened?
What?
This is actually what happened in my dream. I'm not kidding. William Shatner came out and said, I'm up. And I said, dude, but I'm pretty sure, like, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I think that William Shatner's Jewish, isn't he?
I think he is, yeah.
I think he is. Well, that's what I told him in my dream. And he said, I don't care. My mother never loved me, is what he said. And then he started laying into me. And let me tell you, William Shatner can fight.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, dude, I don't want to, we can talk about that if you want, but I'm not going to fight you. And meanwhile, he's laying into me. And then he said to me, he said to me, this is a dream, people, if you just tuned in. William Shatner and I didn't actually fight. But then he said, he said to me, you are not putting your fingerprints on my guitar. That's what he said. And I said, I have no intention of putting my fingerprints on your guitar. Meanwhile, he's pummeling me.
I'd suggest no more cheese and maybe wear some clothes when you go to bed. Right. I've got 2 jokes. They're both from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival this year.
Right.
And they're too funny. I'm going to do the one I thought was the least funny first. I took out a loan to pay for an exorcism. If I don't pay it back, I'm going to get repossessed. I thought that was very clever. But this one I thought was brilliant, and if, especially if the Brannans are listening, because they're big Doctor Who fans as well.
Okay, go.
I lost a friend after we had an argument about the TARDIS. I thought it was just a little thing, but it seemed to be so much bigger when we got into it. I think that's genius. That's just so clever.
That's really good.
On that note, we will, I think, call it an evening.
Okay. There it is.
If you guys enjoyed it, first, thank you for watching. I appreciate you joining. I know it's a bit different to what we normally do. But if you enjoyed it, let us know. Maybe we'll do this once a week or something.
Maybe we'll. G'day, Michelle. I just anyway. I just want to end with this caveat. Is that this is the reason why I edit. Okay, so if I said anything wrong or offensive or things that weren't funny or something stupid, ordinarily I would take all that stuff out.
And if I don't mind. You have to just let it go. People are people.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being very brave. And actually, you know what? I feel like this wasn't as daunting as I thought it was going to be. So we should do this more often.
Yeah, and maybe next time you'll wear some pants.
Yeah, I know. and there was one other thing I was going to throw into that. And the upside is that neither you or I have to do any editing. This is great.
No, we're done.
Just
yeah.
Go and move on to the next thing. Now this show's done. Okay. So Clint says it was really good. William says, have a great night, guys. So good to see you guys back. Thanks, guys. Thanks to everyone, Bluesman, and everyone that tuned in. And maybe we'll do this again soon.
Yeah, we appreciate it very much. Have a great evening, and we'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.